Thank you all for attending and for our second Coffee with Keith. Keith Chiquin being the headmaster at TASIS Portugal. And we're happy to be with you tonight. We're even happier that we're joined by Erica Harrow, who is the Director of Learning and Assessment at TASIS Portugal, or she will be when she officially arrives in Portugal this summer. Currently, Erica is speaking to us from her home in Carmel, California. My name is Amy Gruber, and I am the Director of Enrollment Management and Marketing here at TASIS Portugal. And I am always here. If you have a question, you can write, email, call, WhatsApp, text me, any way you want to reach me. I'm here for you, as are the rest of the admissions team. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Keith and Erica.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second week of Coffee with Keith. In case you missed last week, I'm Keith. This is coffee, or not. Only my hairdresser knows. I am the headmaster at TASIS Portugal, the newest TASIS family of schools, the newest TASIS campus. And we're delighted that you've made time to join us again. In case you did miss last week's session, we're doing this webinar series every Thursday to communicate with our families, staff, and probably some spies. We know that nature hates a vacuum, and rumor loves one. So what we're trying to do here is relieve some of your anxiety and answer some of your questions during this very tumultuous time. And we know that people's lives are very busy and things haven't been business as usual lately. So we're here to try to help you to understand what we're going to do for you when you join our family, and also to help you through the next coming months. To that end, I hope this finds everybody in our family safe and healthy. Everybody in this webinar has children and aging parents that we worry about, and we know you do too. So we certainly hope that nobody's been, no one's loved ones have been adversely affected by this virus. We also recognize that many of you have been carrying the load of teaching your own children over the past number of weeks. And trust me, we know what that's like. Not easy. In fact, that might be more dangerous than the virus. We're not sure. On the other hand, if it was easy, then you wouldn't be paying to send them to TASIS, would you? So I'm going to introduce our guest in a minute, but I want to say one final thing, which is a sad sign of the times. One of our new faculty members who participated in last week's webinar made comment to us that this is quickly becoming one of their family's highlights of the week. I mean, really, Bill, is your life that bad? Can I assume that you've already been to watch The Tiger King? Anyway, we're going to move on. Finally, you know that we've been talking a lot, both in last week's webinar and when you visit us, about the sort of school we want to be and how we value families and we value the relationship with our families, and certainly that education is a partnership between the school and the family. And through that partnership, we achieve the greatest ends for your children. And you might have thought, yes, we've heard that song before. But after last week's webinar, we got quite a lot of fan mail, I have to tell you, and some of it in the form of a request. The request was went as such: is there any way you could open 7th grade for 2020? Well, we took that request very seriously. I took it to my board, and they said, if you've got the space and you believe you can put on the highest quality program for middle school, then let's do it. And so we're pleased to announce that we will be adding grade 7 this fall. And I think that will make many of you happy, especially families who have children who are entering grade 7 and have younger children coming to TASIS. We're hoping that that helps logistically, but also we hope we're able to provide exactly what you want in a middle school education. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight with Erica. So let's get on with the program. As I mentioned previously, this is my 10th school. I've worked in secondary, elementary, middle, day schools, boarding schools, post-secondary. I've served in almost every role in schools over the last 33 years. And I was even pretty good at a couple of those roles. But I realized as headmaster, my most important job is to surround myself with the best possible people, to identify, attract, and hire the best teachers from around the world. And that's exactly what I've done. And I have someone in front of me who, well, not in front of me virtually, I should say, who understands what it takes to create a great school, to have passion built into your expertise, and to create, and most importantly, great learning environments for young people. All of our teachers and all of our administrators have in their own areas of specialty more knowledge and more talent than I do. So I get to introduce someone tonight who I'm delighted is joining the TASIS family. She's an incredible educator. Amy has mentioned her already. Erica Harrow will be our Director of Learning and Assessment. Her key area of responsibility, among many areas of expertise, will be to help build and monitor our academic program and to serve as a mentor and to support our teachers. And this includes designing our faculty professional development and faculty collaboration and measuring student achievement. Ultimately, Erica, who hails from Southern California, and although not technically from Hollywood, that is my nickname for her, ultimately Erica is going to help create an academic culture that supports outstanding student achievement. That's why we're here, and outstanding student achievement for all students. But finally, I will be quiet for a moment and drink my coffee while we listen to a person who is outstanding in her field, which is incidentally where I found her. Kidding aside, please welcome Erica Harrow.
Thank you, Keith. Thanks for welcoming me. I'm so excited to join TASIS. I am in my house, like many of you guys are, and I am born and raised in California. I've grown up in Carmel. And I came to visit Portugal about 6 weeks ago, right before this all hit. And I fell in love. I came to double check that I was making a good decision. And wow, I'm just so impressed with Portugal. It's beautiful. The people are so friendly. And it reminds me so much of California. There's a sense of home there already. So I'm incredibly excited to come and join TASIS and join you guys. I can't wait to meet all of you. My favorite thing about schools are the people and the relationships. And it's probably what I'm most looking forward to. For the last 10 years, I have been the Director of Curriculum and Instruction at Stevenson School. It's an independent, half-day, half-boarding school that goes from pre-K to grade 12. We have 2 campuses. I have been an academic leader on the pre-K through 8 campus, helping to build a positive school culture that is both rigorous academically and supportive in the social emotional arena. One of my expertise is in differentiating and supporting parents and teachers to do so in their classrooms in a very elegant way. And I plan to bring that to TASIS as well.
Great. We've got some, I've got a few questions for you, Erica, for our families. One of them is, could you tell us a bit about your own family and particularly about all the pets you're bringing with you?
Absolutely. So I've got 3 children of my own. I have 2 daughters and a son. My oldest is going to be a senior next year at Reed College in Portland. My next daughter is 18. She'll be heading off to college at St. Mary's in California. And my youngest is a 13-year-old, almost 14-year-old son who will be coming with us to Portugal. He's incredibly excited. My husband's an acupuncturist who plans to practice in Portugal. And currently, we have 2 dogs, 2 cats, some chickens, a fish. We have a snake that just went missing. And you didn't know about the snake, huh? She's an albino boa constrictor.
I used to be a snake owner too.
Oh, all right.
But it went missing.
So we're just planning to bring the dogs. However, that all by itself is quite something to plan. So we are slowly but surely getting our ducks in a row, and we are excited to come this summer to relocate, settle in, and get started on this important work.
Thank you, Erica. And I know you're leading a lot of the online learning for Stevenson School, and I'm sure there'll be some questions about that later. However, one of our feature programs here at TASIS Portugal will be the Harvard Project Zero Visible Thinking. And I've described that to some parents, but you have expertise in that area. So can you talk a little bit about what that looks like, how we make thinking visible and the visible thinking routines?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many things about TASIS that are attractive, and I'm sure that they are things that have attracted you guys as families as well. As an educator, when I first found out about TASIS Portugal, that Singapore math and core knowledge and differentiation and visible thinking were all part of the program, I kind of got chills. I am so excited to be part of a school with such intentional planning about the student experience. And visible thinking is a really simple approach to help students think about how they think. So rather than just feeding them material that we expect them to memorize and spit back out to us, we want to embed all of our teaching and all of our students' learning with the strategies and the awareness of those strategies that they can use and apply to all sorts of other places in their life. Visible thinking is literally just that. Sometimes it means that you're talking out your thinking as an adult, as a mentor, to guide the student to see the language that you're using or to see the thinking process that you're going through so that they feel confident in their own thinking process. Other times it is built into a routine. For example, in Keith's blog, we talked about the what's it called? It's called, I'm just going to look at my notes. I used to think and now I think. That's what the actual routine is called. And as it is stated, it's an opportunity to set the stage for students to talk about what they know about a subject, kind of understand their background knowledge, perhaps through discussion, perhaps through writing, and then have a lesson. Have something that the teacher is explicitly teaching, have a project that the students are involved with, have some reading, and then revisit, well, I used to think this, and now I think something new. And the goal is to encourage students to have an open mind, to take in other perspectives, and to value other perspectives, to learn. So that's one of them. It's a very simple routine, and there's lots of them that are built into the school day and have icons that help teachers like me remember the name of them, but also to help students remember the protocol or the procedure of how to walk through that thinking. And then just like with anything else, with enough practice, those things become natural. And it's kind of part of why I forget the name of it. It's a natural process of talking about thinking with students and helping them get to that sweet spot where they feel really confident with their knowledge and they're ready to be challenged to the next thing coming, the next harder task, a similar task, or again, like I said in the beginning, applying it to something else in their lives or in their schooling.
Great, thank you, Erica. And that's all part of the habits of mind that we're helping to inculcate in our students. You know, our job as educators is to create better students. And we do that by creating better thinkers. And the visible thinking routines is intentional in trying to help young minds to grow, to understand the thinking process, and to reflect on why they think that way and why other people think perhaps in a different way. So thanks for that, Erica. Erica helped me write the Headmaster's blog last week for that, so I appreciate it.
And Keith and Erica, may I interrupt for one quick housekeeping item? I forgot to remind people that they can submit questions. So at the bottom of the Zoom screen, there's a Q&A function there. You can submit questions which will not be seen by others. And at the end of the webinar, Keith and Erica will attempt to answer all of your questions. So thank you in advance.
Thank you. I've got one more question for Erica, and then we're going to open the floor up to questions from, and I know there's some questions have already come in since we started, but talk a little bit about your philosophy, Erica, if you will, regarding student assessment.
I believe that the purpose of assessment is to inform instruction. I feel that there's largely no other reason to be doing it. There are some other reasons. However, the priority of assessment should be to get to know the student better, to understand where they are in their learning, what supports need to be put in place to get them to the next place in their learning, and to maximize their learning, to help those students be the best version of themselves. Sometimes that's in academics, sometimes that's in learning habits, sometimes that's in social skills. All of those are so connected that they're each important in taking a holistic view of a student and understanding the student better through both formative assessment, meaning little checks on a student's knowledge that might feel informal, to more substantive, summative assessments where we can cull the knowledge that the student is able to demonstrate to us at that time. Mm-hmm. And really, we're trying to figure out the best format to understand what a student knows. So it's in that piece that I think the part of my expertise really will come to play at TASIS, and I'm so excited to both share that expertise, but also to learn from the incredible colleagues that I've met so far. That piece of really fine-tuning how we find out what students know and being flexible enough to adjust our notion of assessment to be able to get accurate information. And then communicating that to you as parents, communicating that to the student to engage them in their own learning process and to help motivate them. All of us are partners, as Keith has said, in motivating students to do their best work and to be their best self.
Thank you, Erica. And I can tell you that all of the teachers that we have hired, and I've had conversations about this exact topic, the job of our school and the job of our teachers is to find out, as you said, what students know. Not to find out what they don't know, but to find out what they know, and that's our job, and to help them to identify that, articulate that, and express that. So we all believe in that same philosophy, so thanks for sharing that, Erica. I guess we now have some questions from the floor.
We do indeed have some questions. We do, no, I was just unmuting myself, thank you. We do indeed have some questions, and we have a student who actually sent us questions in advance of the webinar, which we very much appreciate.
I hope you're all that student.
I'm working on it. And one of the questions, which I think will resonate with both of you, is that he'd like to know whether or not there will be learning support teachers and how TASIS will support students who, might require some additional assistance there. So I'm sure you guys have talked a lot about this already.
I'll say a couple things, and then Erica, you can jump in from your experience. To be fair to Erica, she's not here with us in Portugal, so she only knows as much as I've told her, and as much as we've had a fair bit of communication. She's not fully vetted on all of our faculty supports and student supports, but She has great expertise in this area. In our pre-K through grade 3, we were intentional about putting 2 teachers in every classroom. Not because it's about student-teacher ratios, really, but it's about being able to differentiate our curriculum and our instruction such that when some students need more challenge, there's a teacher there to help them. When some students might need more support, there's a teacher there to help them. Now, we think that's going to work in 99% of the cases. We have highly skilled teachers who know how to do that very well. But in cases where students, maybe they've missed certain things in their educational careers, maybe they just have a problem with one concept that they need more time on, we have a director of learning support and counseling who has enormous expertise in this area, finding out which issues students are having difficulty with and then remediating those. Usually in the classroom setting, occasionally outside of the classroom setting or in an after-school program. But we think in most of our classes, because of our class size and because of teacher quality, we're going to be able to catch students up and get them to the same level rather quickly. I'll talk more about that later, but would you like to say anything else about that, Erica?
Perhaps will just share a bit about my background. I started out in my undergraduate work as a reading specialist. I went on to get my master's in family counseling, and then my license as a school psychologist. I'm an educational therapist currently, which is a quirky California certification that kind of combines all of those things. It has helped inform my administrative work over the last 10 years. And for the last 25 years, I have spent a good portion of my time in my professional life assessing students for both giftedness and for learning disabilities, helping train teachers and tutors in strategies and accommodations, accessibility features that can be embedded in the classroom, and also providing one-on-one support for students, both in a push-in model and in outside of the classroom. So it's something that I'm passionate about. I know quite a bit about. I'm an incredible resource in this area, and I'm incredibly excited to collaborate with our academic leadership team, all of whom understand this topic of student support incredibly well. I'm so confident TASIS is going to be able to support students wherever they are in their learning. And those twice exceptional kids who are really gifted and might have some quirkiness in their learning and might also need some mild support, we're going to be able to hit that too.
Thank you for this answer, because it is coming from a student who's obviously very focused on his own academic journey. Related, a father of 3 enrolled students has submitted a question, and it's directed to Erica. And he said, hearing you, the academic way of learning that you're talking about, kids look very similar to an IB school. Am I right, or partly?
It's such a good question. Keith and I have talked a lot about this. There's a push in education, including the IB program, towards inquiry, towards looking at a holistic view of a student. And certainly we intend to incorporate this holistic or IB influenced view of how we report students' progress and how we balance out our classroom instruction to allow enough time for inquiry. On the other side of that, we don't want to forget how important background knowledge is, how important fundamental skills are, and we want to be able to assess, teach, and practice those fundamental skills to the point where they're automatic enough that students can then use them successfully in an inquiry-based or project-based learning environment. So TASIS is going to find that middle, that balance point where we are able to provide experiences for students that are both structured and allow enough room for a growth mindset, flexibility, and perspective taking. I hope that answers that.
I think so. Keith, did you have anything to add?
I always have something to add, usually not a value, but I add it anyway. We talk a lot about knowledge being important and knowledge building on knowledge. In fact, Isaac Newton talked about standing on the shoulder of giants. You can't be a strong, you fill in the blank, scientist, lawyer, doctor, engineer, carpenter. You can't be any of those things without a body of knowledge that has to be acquired somehow. And usually it's acquired through working with people that have that knowledge. We believe in inquiry, but we believe in very guided inquiry, which is to say, we help direct students so that it's efficient learning. If you allow students just to take charge of their own learning, especially at a young age without direction, they spend a lot of time getting lost. Our job as educators and adults is to guide them toward the learning that we believe is important. And there is a body of knowledge that I believe most of mankind believes is important still. And we do that with great intention. And then in the middle school, students have more opportunity to investigate on their own and use the knowledge that they have been taught and learned to promote their own inquiry and self-direction. So I think Erica, you did a very nice job of describing that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did have somebody write in that Erica's screen is frozen. It is not on my end. And so if anyone else is seeing that, please let me know, because I'm not seeing it frozen. But anyway, thank you. One person wrote, hi, and thanks for the informative session. You're welcome. Can you talk about the emotional aspects of the school's program? So I'm going to infer by that the person wants to know a little bit more about just supporting students in general. And, we hear so much about kids and anxiety today and those sorts of things. We had a related question from someone wanting to know if we thought it was important that kids have fun at school. Mm-hmm. So I'll combine both of those for you.
I'll introduce it, and then Erica's going to do a better job of explaining it. But we fundamentally believe, all of our faculty do. I've had this conversation. I've certainly had this conversation with Erica. We believe that part of our job is to help students to build confidence. If you are a confident person, you're going to have a lot more success in life, in all parts of your life. But confidence can't be gained by being told you're good at something or you're smart. Confidence has to be built by actually doing and achieving and being supported through that. And if we can do that, if we can help students to achieve, to take risks, to support them, and they're having, as you've mentioned, enjoying what they're doing in school, they're going to be a lot more successful later in life and in their school studies. So part of our job is to build confidence, and we do that very intentionally. We're not a school that's focused on competition. It's not to pit one student against another to see who can be the best. Really, and I've talked to about this to some parents. People always say, we're creating a society where everybody gets a trophy. Well, you know what? A lot of people deserve trophies, and they didn't get the top grade. They didn't get the really significant role in the development of that play or the development of learning, and we need to recognize that. The most successful people on the planet, and this has been measured in tons of research, the most successful people are not the people that have the highest IQs. It is the people who are determined, persistent, resilient, and willing to put in that effort. And I'm going to turn over to Erica now. Now that I've said everything. But what's your approach with that, Erica?
So Keith and I were talking about this yesterday just a little bit. One thing is that as partners in student learning, it's really important for us to all have a shared language around social emotional health, around social emotional learning. That's something that the academic leadership team has already begun conversations around, and we are developing a program that will parallel the academic program to make sure that the emotional side of things is paid attention to, discussed, acknowledged, and supported in the same way that academics will be supported. Going back to my comments about assessment, assessment is often a point of anxiety for students, as is homework. And our philosophy around assessment in trying to accurately measure students' understanding without stressing them out is part of this whole story. We need to make sure that we're gathering important information, important data to help inform our instruction and to inform student learning without putting too much burden on the student, because joy is the goal of learning. Learning and school should be joyful. It should be engaged. And at the risk of showing my cards, I would rather have engaged students than obedient students. It is the precursor to motivation. It's the precursor to finding your passion and what you really want to study. And it allows an opening for a mentor to come in and come alongside a student and help them find that zone where they're so in it that they're willing to do the tedious work.
Mm.
Wonderful, thank you both. And we have mother of an enrolled student, fifth grader, inquiring if we will have honors level math for fifth graders.
I'll take that. Being a math teacher by trade, the research on streaming, that is separating students out by ability or by background knowledge or skill, is not a successful way to teach any subject, including mathematics. The reality is that all of our students are going to achieve at a high level because we have expertise in the classroom. Our math program was specially selected because the pedagogy that is used and implemented in Singapore math promotes strong number sense and strong problem-solving ability among students. A lot of students get waylaid or misguided in math because they believe they don't have the right skills. And that's often because we're teaching algorithms, we're teaching routines that students don't understand. We tell them, just do them. You'll be fine. You get an answer, the answer is 7, you're gonna love it, move on. And we don't teach students to really appreciate and understand numbers. And that's the beauty of the Singapore math approach. But to make sure we get it right, all of our teachers are going to be trained in Singapore math. We have a specialist coming from the United States who's going to be training all of our teachers in late August. And then we have hired a person who has expertise in Singapore math on our staff, and her sole job is to work with teachers and students to make sure we have the highest level of pedagogy, the highest level of teaching in the classroom, and that we truly understand and know the Singapore math program. Erica herself has taught in the Singapore math program and can speak more to that. But so no, all of our students will be learning together. Some will be, as we've used a word called differentiation. In case you're not familiar with that, that means being able to take a group of students at various levels and work individually with each of them to make support. Someone coughing? And so what we believe in is a differentiated classroom, which means students are getting the attention and challenge they need and support, but not separating students out and saying, you're the gifted math students and this group, you're not so gifted, and this group, well, you're never going to make it. That's not how we approach education. That's not how we approach any subject. Erica's going to talk about that.
Yes, wonderful.
Singapore Math is a program that I brought to Stevenson, again, about 10 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. And I'm so excited that we're going to be using it at TASIS. It's an incredible program. The materials that we will be using naturally differentiate. They are there are materials that are offered for challenging problem sets, so that when a student can do the calculations very easily and has demonstrated the mental math, then there's these really meaty word problems that I promise your student will not be bored by.
Erica, can you speak up a little bit? All of a sudden the volume went down a bit.
Oh, sure. Let me see if I can turn that up. Is that better?
It got much softer all of a sudden.
Hardly be the feed.
Well,
I can hear you though.
okay. So Singapore Math, we're using the Math in Focus version of it. It is a US version of Singapore Math that is incredibly well thought out. It provides materials that will definitely provide enough challenge. At the 7th grade level, the program does offer an accelerated path, and likely we will incorporate that in for our whole school rather than having it be a separate component for one class over another. And I agree with Keith. The leveling of students, especially in math, is not supported in the literature. That being said, it doesn't mean that we're not going to set the bar incredibly high. We're at Stevenson right now, we have built the program so that, and Singapore Math has helped us to do this, just in its approach and its accessibility to students, to bring the average level of achievement up for students far beyond what would be considered the national average, US or in Portugal. We are shooting for having students be hovering at an average at about the 80th percentile for those of you that like those kind of numbers. We want kids to be above grade level in general. So that's our bar that we're setting. And we will take that differentiation case on a case-by-case basis to make sure that the students are getting what they need.
So in short, it's fair to say that students who are hungry for and ready for more academic challenge and harder math problems and all that will get their fill of these things.
Yes.
We have the mother of 3 enrolled boys writing to us from Colorado, and many other questions also echo this same theme right now. I'm curious to learn a bit more about what other TASIS schools are doing with virtual learning and what plans TASIS Portugal is thinking about in case we're in the same situation next year. Are there certain tools, e.g. Google Classroom, etc., that you would plan to use? We can certainly Keith will cover a little bit about TASIS, but Erica has actually been one of the leaders for her school's online educational delivery right now, so she will be very involved with that for TASIS Portugal.
Okay, well, I'll start. I just actually was in communication with the other heads of school for the TASIS schools in England and in Switzerland. I've asked them how it's going. So you have to remember that these schools are different than the TASIS Portugal school in that they're predominantly boarding. So many of their students had to leave campus on very short notice and then go to their home countries. So it took a bit of settling in. But the advantage that they have in these schools is that most of the faculty, many of the faculty live right on campus. So there was a lot of opportunity to collaborate and communicate. And they believe it's going very, very well. And that's all the report I have, that the families are very happy, students are making great progress, there's lots of support, and the teachers are collaborating in a way to make sure that students aren't overburdened. What can happen in these situations is people scramble to get material out to young people to make sure they're not missing anything, and they forget that without the supports, things take a lot longer than they would normally take. I'm not saying that parents can't be great champions and teachers, but the reality is there's a reason students come to school, and part of that reason is that high quality teachers can guide them very well and efficiently. So you lose some of that when you're learning remotely. You lose some of the human touch. But the reports I have from both schools is that families are very happy with what's going on. I don't have firsthand knowledge of that. I'm reflecting what's been told to me. Erica, on the other hand, has been immersed in that with her school and has actually led that for her school for the last number of weeks. So I'm going to let her talk about her experience.
Keith, I'll just add very quickly that TASIS in Lugano, Switzerland has been surveying parents regularly, and they published the results of those surveys. We actually shared that on the TASIS Portugal Facebook site last week because I think it's a great example that they just don't want to say, rah, rah, we're doing a great job, but we want to hear from you as parents, and we take your feedback to heart. We're publishing it for everyone to see, and we're acting on it.
So what I'll add from my experience over the last month, Stevenson is in its 4th week of remote instruction, and we're all a bit exhausted, and parents are included. It's tiring. And it's tiring in part because we're all learning at such a rapid pace and adjusting so frequently that in and of itself is part of the exhaustion. It's also incredibly exciting to discover tools that we are forced to discover at this point. And some of us who've been a little less interested in tech have come to appreciate where tech is valuable, how it can be used as a tool, and then also the boundary of when to set up to not use tech, especially in the younger ages. You know, what is helpful for students and parents when they've got little ones in the early learning program, and tech is not always the answer. So the academic leadership team that I'm part of at Stevenson have come up with a nicely balanced approach to our remote instruction that we're just getting into the groove of now in the 4th week. And what I'll share with you is that the most important piece in our elementary program has been the face-to-face contact that teachers can have with students one-on-one. We have students meeting one-on-one with teachers between 2 and 4 times a week, and then also having small group instructional time that is built into the weekly schedule. There are all sorts of resources that have become free and available online during this COVID-19 outbreak. In our area, the national parks have allowed for virtual tours of all sorts of local areas, and lots of different classes have been taking advantage of that. And then, like I spoke to, the parents who don't want as much tech have also appreciated the activities, the paper pencil tasks, and the more kind of life skills activities that we've been able to offer for younger children. Kids need to play. They need to be outside. We can't be in front of the screen all day, although today that might be most of what my day is like. But when I'm off, I will go outside into the backyard that I'm so grateful for. And it must be part of a remote instruction plan to have a break, to have time to talk about how it's going, to survey parents, to make sure that it feels good also, and that we've got a good balance.
And Erica and Amy, you've both been using a term that I should probably explain. You're talking about our academic leadership team. So we have a group of highly experienced, highly educated professionals who are on our academic leadership team. We have Erica, obviously, who's our Director of Learning and Assessment, and she works with teachers to make sure we have the highest student achievement in our school, based on the curriculum, based on the pedagogy, based on our professional development. That's really what her area of expertise and responsibility will be next year. Our Early Learning Center has its own director, and Carrie Trigg, who will be joining us and who's a specialist in early learning, I know she's been working with her students remotely and having a very positive experience, she told me. And she echoes what you just said, Erica, which is the face-to-face time that she has virtual with each of her students has made a significant difference, because as we talked about, much of learning is emotional and social. And without that, learning can break down. We also have a director of studies who has deep background in technology, both instructional technology and otherwise. And so when we have situations like this, she is amply suited to set up our remote learning very, very quickly. And she has great expertise in that area. So we've got, and as well, our other director is the director of learning support and counseling, who is really in charge of our pastoral program, but also around student support. She shares expertise with Erica in assessment and helping students who have identified learning disabilities or giftedness. So we've got a really amazing team. If you think we're going to have only 150 students in September, that is our goal, and that's what we're expecting. Might be a few more, but really around 150 students. The volume of expertise in the room is astounding. And I would say we have more expertise than most schools have, 2 or 3 times that many students. We just really are well prepared to make sure our students learn, whether it's in person or remotely. And we have talked about, what do we do if this virus continues on and we can't get together in September? I can assure you we will be very well prepared for that. And I just would throw in the other piece, which is, even though they're not directors, our core knowledge specialist and our Singapore math specialist, our coding specialist, our yoga specialist, our chess specialist, all of those folks are going to be adding their own dimension to our academic program.
Thank you. And changing gears a bit, father of enrolled students writes, my daughter was at an American school in Bangkok where they did a lot of public performance. Will TASIS work on public performance? Because in my opinion, learning public performance, public speaking, for example, is a great gift.
Mm-hmm. And that was a really important part of what Mrs. Fleming, our founder, believed education should include. I would say, in fact, she preferred the arts over all things. She loved music, she loved drama, acting, and visual arts. So she has made sure that all the TASIS schools build that into a very significant part of the program. We have specialists right from kindergarten on in drama. We have, of course, our music program, which is twofold. It's violin in the early years, plus an overlay of musical history as part of our core knowledge program. And then in the upper years, we have a variety of opportunities in music. As well, we have a public speaking requirement. All students from kindergarten on will be involved in public speaking. They'll learn that in their classes, and then we have little mini public speaking events in their classes, and then eventually we have a whole school public speaking event, which is both entertaining and amazing to watch young people speak, generally without notes. Sometimes it's only for 30 seconds, sometimes it's for many minutes, but we really believe that being able to speak well on top of reading and writing well are really important essential literacies. And so those are things that we practice. We want students to feel confident in doing that.
Thank you. And another student question relates to that, and I think you've...
I apologize, I didn't answer that question fully. We also expect that every class will have a dramatic performance in their class, probably twice a year, and all students will be involved. We have our drama teacher loves to teach drama, loves to teach dance, also stagecraft. So we're going to have a very vibrant drama program. I forgot to mention that. That was actually the real question, wasn't it?
Well, related question was whether or not we would have an actual arts and drama department. And so I think you've talked about that in a really robust way, but since this is from a student, I do think it's really important to emphasize the importance of the arts at TASIS schools.
Did I do that, or do you want me to do that?
Maybe just a little bit more to make sure, particularly starting with Mrs. Fleming, that is an iconic part of the TASIS experience.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, I think you've said it between us. We very much believe it. For us, the arts are not an add-on. They're built right into our academic day. They're a very important part of what we do. Same as we feel about physical activity. We believe that art, physical activity stimulate the brain. These are important things to us. Becoming better students means becoming better thinkers, as I said, and being better thinkers means finding ways to stimulate the brain all day in different ways. That's why we pick chess, that's why we have meditation and yoga, and that's why we believe so much in both the visual and the performing arts.
Thank you. We have a very nice note. Hi, and congrats for the informative session, which is always nice to hear. Thank you. I would like to know a bit more about what role sports will play at TASIS, and how is the campus going to be prepared for sports? It's usually an important part of the student's life in American schools, and I would love to learn more about TASIS's plans in this regard.
That's a good question. It's a question we've had with some frequency, because the physical plant here doesn't appear to have space for athletics, but it does. And we're developing those spaces, and some of the drawings or artist renderings of those spaces are on our website. We're also working with 2 local landowners who have land adjacent to this property to rent, buy, develop playing fields. That is still in negotiation, so I can't yet say we have nailed that down, but we're in the process of doing so, and we certainly expect to. We have an indoor playing space that is really made for dance, yoga. It will have an indoor climbing wall. My goal is to have an exterior climbing wall that is very substantial, but that won't be for year 1. But you're right, American schools, and we are in many ways an American school, value athletics and athletic competition. Our PE teachers both are very competitive themselves. They can't wait to come and develop a number of competitive and non-competitive programs. We even had a parent who really who wants to help us develop a flag football program. He himself played football in the US at the college level. But I would say you have to trust that we're going to develop these as quickly as we can. I myself have coached more than 40 teams in my time in schools and outside of schools in the community. And I think it's really important for the full development of young people to have an appreciation both for just physical activity, because that's important, but also for a sense of competition, because I think that elevates people's game, builds confidence, as I said, and makes for a healthy lifestyle.
Fantastic.
And in looking at the timetables, the schedules for the different grade levels, we've built in movement every day. Mm-hmm. That's been definitely part of our conversation to make sure that the student is having the best day and the best balance of a day with some arts, some physical activity, PE, yoga, getting outside, and academics all in one day.
Yeah. The only other thing I would add, because I know, I'll add 2 things, because last week I said the construction on the exterior of the building would start this week. Hopefully, well, if you drive by today, it has started. We're already taking down the metal facades, punching out windows, and starting to rebuild the outside. We've been rebuilding the inside for some months. But in year 1, we won't have, we don't promise, I shouldn't say we don't promise that we will have a dedicated full-size soccer pitch. We are working toward that, but we also have many in the area that we can utilize, including indoor ones, which are about 3 minutes away. So we will utilize those to make sure that students have that experience. The long-term plan of this campus is to have all of that outdoor space fully developed. We got a late start, as many of you know. We got a late start to this project, and so we're playing a bit of catch up. We will be open in September, but every piece of the outdoor development may not be fully done
Keith may not realize that he's frozen right now. Keith, you were frozen for a minute, but I think you covered it. We have had this question several times tonight. We had it last week, and I'm quite confident we will see it in every Coffee with Keith webinar. Are you positive that everything will be ready since the vital preparation time is being stifled by the lockdown?
As I said last week, are we positive? No, we are not positive. We do.
Keith, sorry, your connection is not doing very well. My apologies, everyone, if you can hear me. Keith, you froze again.
Amy, maybe you can answer that question then.
I think you can try again. We're on you're now moving again, so that's a good sign.
Okay. I see we're almost out of time, so I'll be as quick as I can. Yes, we know that the virus may slow things down. It has not yet, though. Our supply chain is intact. All of our workers are here. We had 25 on site today. The external facades are coming off. The interior is being built, and we are on schedule. However, should that change, should we not come to realize that we cannot have the building entirely ready for September 7th when we open, we have a backup facility. We have a beautiful backup plan. We are securing those details this week and next week, and we probably can even tell people where it is in the near future. But you will not be disappointed, I can assure you, in the backup plan. If we need to go there for a week, if we need to go there for a month, depending on how all of this unfolds. But right now, we are on schedule.
Thank you. So apparently at different points in time, we've all been frozen. So sorry about that. Because when I put the question out there, one father said, Amy, you're actually the frozen one. And somebody else just said, Erica's still frozen, but Keith is moving. So Wi-Fi is a little challenging right now in the building. So my apologies for that. So one of the questions here, and it relates to another one, is will the school go beyond 7th grade in the future? And then I had one other parent want to clarify her child is in year 7 now, which would be British system year 7, which means that 7th grade would be the appropriate grade for TASIS Portugal next year. And yes, we would have a grade, but Keith, could you speak to how we're progressing after opening pre-K through 7 next year?
Yes, and I think what you said wasn't entirely clear. Year 7 in the British system is grade 6 in our system.
Right, which means grade 7 next year is for us.
And our original plan was just to open pre-K through 6. As you know, we've added grade 7. The grade 7 students will be our oldest students in the school for the duration of their career. They will come in as a group of leaders, and they will exit, the first to exit the school 6 years later as leaders. And so we're really looking forward to working with that group. It'll probably be a smaller class, and but they will move into grade 8. We'll take a few more students into grade 8 the year after, but we will not be adding students in front of them. We believe in building from the foundation, and we believe in building at a speed that we can manage and that we can assure the highest quality of education. So grade 7 students in September will forever be the oldest students and the first graduating class from TASIS Portugal.
Fantastic. Thank you, Keith. I'm just flipping back through the questions. We had one actually from a parent of 2 enrolled students before the webinar, so thank you for an early submission. Are we planning any changes to the curriculum in anticipation of needed catch-up because the kids pretty much worldwide are out of school right now?
Yes, I can answer this one. We have a very robust plan to send a lot of work home for you to work with your children all summer and get, no, I'm kidding, of course. There's a whole bunch of panic, I can sense it. No, we have great confidence that the young people that arrive in September will have forgotten many of the things that they learned throughout the course of their education. That is only normal. We also know that you're working hard to keep them up to speed as much as possible, but we have great faith that our teachers will be able to help students in the first week, no, but over the course of the first number of months, and certainly some of the young people will be with us for 7 years and some will be with us for 14 years. We have great confidence that we will more than catch them up we will have them at advanced levels before long. So that is not a worry. I don't want people to panic. I don't want people to think, well, we've missed a quarter of the year and therefore our children are not being educated and they should probably go back a grade. None of that will be necessary. If we've hired the right people, and we have, your children will be very well supported in their learning, and this will not be an issue.
Thank you. And there is a question, actually we had more than one, about foreign languages at TASIS Portugal.
So obviously English is the language of instruction. We want to ensure that all of our students have full command of the English language, spoken, written, and of course, strong reading skills. The research suggests that strong reading skills built in the early years not only contribute to strong reading skills later in life, but also to higher academic achievement. However, we will be teaching Portuguese language from pre-K all the way through the program. And then in grade 7 or possibly 6, where this is a conversation we're having right now about a third and fourth language. Spanish is going to be the third language. And people wonder why Spanish when Portuguese is a Romance language and is close to Spanish in many ways. But the reality is we live next to a very large economy in Spain. That's one reason. Spanish is one of the top most spoken languages in the world. And that's part of the reason we're adding it. Portuguese is as well, by the way. And so we're focusing on the Romance languages. We have a plan to offer Latin as an optional program for 7th grade. And we are looking at French as well. So I'll have more detail on that in the near future. We have people already trained to teach all of those areas, by the way. So we're ready to go should we move in that direction.
Thank you. And a question that came in earlier, I think it was shortly after Erica spoke, so apologies I didn't get to it sooner. Typically schools reward memorizers, quote unquote, who regurgitate what they learn in classroom. Can you expand on encouraging and teaching self-learning, critical thinking, and problem solving?
From my experience, memorization continues to play a role in education, and a much smaller one. Having the basic skills, whether that's in sight words or in math facts, two of the areas where memorization still has some play. They're important in building automaticity so that it's not as much effort for students to take on more challenging tasks. So we will definitely still build those skills in creative and engaging ways. We will not be a school that does drill and kill. And we will still help develop those skills that do need to be memorized. That opens up a place for students to engage in discussion around reading at even the youngest of ages. And the Core Knowledge program provides such beautiful classic literature and readings and questions then to help inspire students' discussion, that critical thinking piece is naturally embedded in the curriculum that we'll be using. And likewise for science, likewise for math. The questions that we ask as the adults who are helping to guide these students is really the answer to your question. If we ask a question that has a right answer, we support student memorization. If we ask a question that gets a student to explain their thinking and to explain why they think that way, we open up the arena of critical thinking. Sometimes it ends up in some debate over who knows what. But it does allow for the academic experience to be more robust, more meaningful. And then to hold a spot in the student's memory because it's attached to an experience, or it's attached to something that was funny or gross or more memorable. And those are fun places in school, because when you've really dug deep into a topic, you remember it.
I'm just going to say one, and I realize we're 5 minutes over time, but I'm just going to add one thing to what Erica so eloquently commented on. When the brain is trying to solve a problem, if it is distracted because it doesn't know basic knowledge or basic things that have to be memorized, like, for example, multiplication tables, or that the formula for areas, length, times width, if the brain has to occupy itself to solve those routine tasks, it can't fully use all of its energy and focus to solve more difficult problems. And so that's why young people how to memorize decoding so they can read. If they have to always use their brain to decode, it takes time. They'll never become fluent readers. I can't remember the year, but about 20 years ago, a computer called Big Blue was trained to beat the world's greatest chess player, Garry Kasparov. How did they do that? Because the computer outthought him? No, but the computer has a way of memorizing that most humans can't. They've shown that the greatest chess players have the greatest memory, not the greatest strategy, the greatest memory for all of the moves that they have previously made. And that's why chess players become better and better as they get older. The world's greatest chess players are rarely young. They're usually much more mature because they've experienced all of that and they've committed it to a form of memory. Just like athletics is a form of muscle memory. Some things have to be memorized, but that is a minority of things. And as Erica said, we don't teach in that manner unless we need to.
Thank you. Thank you, Keith and Erica. Thank you to all of the participants. You were great with the questions. You were also super helpful in letting me know that in some cases, different people were frozen here or you could still hear. So I really appreciate you helping me out there. We will try and get a better Wi-Fi connection next week when Keith is joined by our amazing first grade teaching team, Erin Searles and Heather Brooks. And not only for first grade parents, so other parents attend too and get a sense of this incredible teaching culture. And I know that Erica's already been meeting via Zoom with her soon-to-be new colleagues. And as you can imagine, we're really excited about people like Erica coming to Portugal and being part of founding this school. And all of you, we've got lots of founding families on. We've got lots of people who are just thinking about exploring TASIS Portugal. So thanks for your time. I hope you're all well and staying well. And I will let Keith have the last word.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks for moderating. Erica, thank you so much for joining us during a time I know is very busy for you. It's the middle of the day in California, we realize, and you probably have many obligations with your current school. So we'll let you go. I want to say to everybody, please stay safe, stay in touch, have a wonderful Easter, and please take the weekend off of homework. If anybody asks, the headmaster at TASIS said you can have the weekend off of homework, okay? Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining us.